What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Check the Kick. Sherdog.com is a website. I am the host, Devin. We are back after a small hiatus, partially my fault, partially, where is he at? This guy's fault. I've got a guest on. Ben, thank you so much for coming on, man. I think we wanted to do something on the 100th episode, but I lost count, but we're close enough.
We're getting there, and I'll come back for the 100th episode. Hell, I'm here.
Not a bunch of fights this past weekend, unless someone got into a fight somewhere on the street or something.
No, it was pretty quiet. Like no UFC, obviously, but even kind of the major regional promotions were kind of quiet. The PFL is in their little hiatus before they do a couple big shows around the end of the year. But yeah, it was super quiet. I was off. I try to time my weeks off for that kind of thing. And I just actually unplugged from MMA for a whole week, aside from the very biggest headlines. I became a casual for 9 days. It was great.
I love doing that sometimes. Just like, hey, we don't have UFC. I can just unplug and do the stuff I want to do that weekend and not have to be focused in or tethered to my couch for the events. I don't feel like I'm tethered to my couch for the events. If you feel like it's a chore to watch these fights, probably shouldn't be doing something that seems like a chore. We've got some big fight announcements to talk about, and then we're going to take a look at UFC 323 this weekend. We're about to be in a time of a long hiatus. I think this is the longest the UFC is like gone without throwing a fight after not this weekend, but the following. Like, I think this may be like the longest in quite some time, especially since the ESPN deal where they've gone without fights.
At the beginning of COVID, where we went, that's it. But before that, it would have been years and years and years. Yeah.
I mean, and the COVID break was, kind of based out of necessity. Right now, I mean, they could be doing stuff, but they're not. Our wonderful friend Dana White made some announcements on Thanksgiving.
Yep. He sure did.
We're gonna talk about that. I'm not a football guy, but didn't he make those announcements like during a halftime show too, where he's like, I have to wait till the halftime show because I'm watching this game.
That was weird timing.
Thanksgiving, I thought was a very interesting time for him to just, for lack of better terms, unload the clip on us with all of these crazy fight announcements to look forward into 2026. My wife was asking me the other day, when can I cancel ESPN Plus? Real soon. In about 14 days, all of you guys can get rid of it, or you can keep it if you like lacrosse or whatever.
Women's college softball, that weird like Red Bull air like biplane race. Yeah. The other stuff on ESPN2 is straight garbage.
It's like the sports you get a scholarship for that like no one cares about. You're like, I really need a scholarship. And it's like, what's the thing that they slide on the ice?
Curling?
Yeah, like curling and shit like that, Curling actually is really intense watching it in the Olympics too.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I love it once every 4 years. Like hell yeah.
Yeah. But you couldn't just ESPN too, like they had such an opportunity with this thing to like be bigger and better, and like the program, like ESPN Plus, just like never got better.
Nope, it never got better, and I don't think they got what they were expecting out of the UFC either. Obviously, there was speculation for at least a full year that the ESPN UFC era might be coming to an end. They might not re-up, but it's worth noting that it falling apart appears to be more due to ESPN being unhappy than the UFC. Just the product that ESPN was promised, what they were expecting was not what they were getting by the end. They were just getting low effort Apex cards 22 times a year. Like, yeah.
ESPN like gave them the money to be a damn near monopoly and then got upset when they operated as such. It's like, well, so and we'll shoot over into the Paramount right now, but like if Paramount expects anything less than what ESPN has been giving us, they're a damn fool. Like, why would the UFC change anything? Like, if this is what we got with ESPN, like, what are we gonna?
And we were talking off air before we hit record, and you were talking about, as goofy as some of the UFC's business and production decisions seem to be from our external point of view, all you ever need to be reminded how lucky we are is to see how some other promotions do it, and just how much worse it is. Well, consider that in this case, Paramount has an idea what they're getting into, and the UFC would have to be pretty bad to be worse than their experience with Bellator. So
the watermark is real low.
Yeah.
You know, it's whatever a king tide is the exact opposite. You know, like just whatever that watermark is, just way low. So let's just jump right into it. Dana White, very unenthusiastically, I'm just like, dude, you're doing these fight announcements. I'm not even going to talk about the announcements yet. And I've heard other people, for lack of better terms, like bitch and moan about this on platforms like this. And I'm like, okay, they're being overly critical, but like, no, now I agree with them, where it's like, Dana, you're doing these fight announcements for a company that just sold for $7.7 billion. And like, this is like your flagship. Like, this is your day one.
You own 9% of it.
Why? And that's a very huge number.
Yeah.
But like, get yourself a setup like you and I are on right now. Get yourself a little boom mic, or even one of the clip mics. Get yourself like a person with like a high quality camera that you can go live with. Get yourself a little ring light. You can set up like a quick studio for a 5 to 10 minute video literally anywhere in the world.
Oh, UFC Embedded is running right now. Every week there's a pay-per-view card. UFC Embedded is running, where they are literally just following around 6 or 8 of the top fighters on the card with guys with a setup just like you described. It's not that expensive. I bet they do the entire thing, you know, for the entire 4 episodes of Embedded for each pay-per-view. Well, I mean, those people were on the UFC's payroll, but if they just contracted locals to do it, they could probably do the whole thing for under $20,000. Like, yeah, for Dana not to have someone like that to follow him around when he's making these kind of announcements, instead of like, you know, yelling into his phone in a random room, is kind of weird. Yeah.
He did one, like, I don't know if it was the one before this one or the one before that, one of his recent big announcements, but it was like super delayed. He had everyone freaking waiting. And then he like did that shit from like an airplane with like zero connectivity. So it was like all pixelated and like 108p. It wasn't 1080p. It was like 108p. Like just fucking dial up internet quality. I'm like, brother, you as a promoter, I get it. It's like trying to sell a Nike. Like you don't need to do much work to sell Nikes.
Right.
But if you don't give a shit, like there's a million people that will do it for not a lot of money and do it with a lot more enthusiasm.
And that is worth noting, because obviously Dana gets a lot of flack from fans, from media, from former fighters. The things that I will never really take him to task for are gassing up his own product and lying to us, because that's literally his job. He's a carnival barker. He is the 21st century equivalent of the guy standing on the street corner outside the carnival telling you that, you know, you're going to see the fat lady in the circus tent, and we're going to see a dude wrestle a chimpanzee, and you're going to see the conjoined twins. Like that's him. His whole job is to be the face of the UFC and convince us that whatever they've got playing this weekend is the best thing going. So if he lies to us a little bit, that doesn't really bother me. That's a time-honored tradition of entertainer promoters and fight promoters in particular, and obviously gassing up his own product, because if he doesn't like his own brand, then why would we? So it never bothers me when, you know, he and Rogan would be standing in front of the cage between the prelims and the main card of a pay-per-view, yelling at, you about how incredible this card's going to be. That's his job. And he seems a little more subdued and checked out over the last year or two. You know, like if you were getting ready to turn 60, you'd been doing this for half your life and you're already a billionaire, and now you're having to kind of answer to people, maybe I'd be checking out too. Yeah.
I wouldn't be. It's like, it's like the used car salesman that became the owner of the shady used car lot. Like, you just hire another salesman at that point. Like, you got to hire people that are going to take into your job. Especially if you are, because this, and I don't know if this is like Dana's approach, but if he thinks like this is the mountaintop for the UFC, like this could very well be the peak of the UFC, or this could just be the tiny little hill at the bottom of Mount Everest. Like this, I mean, the UFC, this could be the peak of it. Like in 20 years, we may be like, remember that fight organization called the UFC? Or in 20 years, like this shit's outselling the Super Bowl. Like, and it's up to him.
And it's an interesting conversation. It's probably one for another episode, but obviously anybody who's been around the sport long enough to remember when Dana said that the UFC was going to be bigger than soccer, that's still good for a laugh once or twice a year. But it is worth sitting down and talking sometime about what reasonably would be the biggest that a sport like mixed martial arts and an organization like the UFC could get without adulterating what the core product is. Like, I honestly think the ceiling is it could never be bigger than boxing. Like, I don't think it could ever compete with stick and ball sports. I don't think there are enough people to make it something like, NFL sized in the US, or like top tier soccer in Europe and South America. Just what it is, people in their underwear punching each other in the face. I think it's always going to be niche. It can be a huge niche when you're on a planet with 8 billion people. But yeah, like it's never going to be as big as soccer. Whether 20 years from now we look back on this like, yeah, this was the UFC's high watermark, it was all downhill after the ESPN deal, or they moved on from this to bigger and better things, that'll be interesting to see. But it's an interesting question, like how big could this thing get under optimal conditions?
You're 100% right. Like, my mom is not going to go out of her way to watch any MMA. Like, the very first fight I remember watching with my mother, like being in the same house, was a few years ago. It was Matt Brown versus Miguel Baeza.
Oh boy.
And like, I was like, when Matt Brown was like getting towards the end of things, and like Miguel Baeza was like a highly touted prospect, and he knocks out Matt Brown. And I'm like, Mom, Matt Brown's from Ohio. You're from Ohio. And then like I gas up Matt Brown because it's fucking Matt Brown, and then we both just watch him like get crucified by Miguel Baeza, and I'm like, well, at least, and my mom and I live together in South Florida. I'm like, well, at least this guy's from Miami. Just, like something. So with the Paramount deal, I got off the tracks, but that's kind of how I wanted to start the conversation, where it's like, just based off of these announcements where he's like, yeah, we've got Paddy Pimblett, he's fighting Justin Gaethje for the interim. Yeah. Next fight, Rose Namajunas. It's like he doesn't even know what to be excited about. But Dana did announce the main event, not the co-main event, for UFC 324. It'll be in Las Vegas, Nevada. It's going to be Paddy Pimblett taking on Justin Gaethje. That's a really, really good fight, but you and I both are probably like, yeah, Arman Tsarukyan's getting, he's
shafted.
He's taking it the long way. No spit.
Nope.
Tough.
Yep. Just corn hold.
My question is, it's like, we're assuming that, but like maybe Arman was approached and he said he couldn't make it.
Maybe, but if that were the case, like Arman is still going. So I have to think, because there's nothing Dana likes more than accusing a fighter of not wanting to fight. Like, yeah, I can't make him fight. Francis doesn't want to fight. I offered him 3 different fights. He didn't want to fight. I can't make him fight. Like, yeah, if Arman was making the noise he's making right now after having turned down a reasonable fight offer, I think we'd have heard about it.
I agree. And in this situation too, I'd be, if it were like, I don't know, if it were just like any other fighter on the roster, I'd be like, damn, dude, these guys are fighting for their money. Fortunately for Arman Tsarukyan, he actually just doesn't even need to be an MMA fighter, like monetarily.
Yeah.
Like he is significantly more wealthy than, I would say he is probably more wealthy than every UFC champion, including guys that are pretty wealthy like Islam Makhachev. Like
I'd have to think about it, but it's entirely possible.
He's a multimillionaire. His father has the construction company, and
yeah,
a lot of things have been allotted to him. Like you see the dude in like private jets and luxury vehicles, and I don't think
his car game is ridiculous. Yeah,
it's freaking nuts. So for him, I don't feel like, God, this guy's fighting for a buck. So like, I don't feel too terrible about it, but I do think he's getting shafted because I don't think Paddy and Justin Gaethje are not who else is getting shafted here? Max Holloway. Max Holloway knocked this dude, Justin Gaethje, dead.
He sure did.
In like the highest viewed clip I'm pretty sure that the 5th round of that fight at UFC 300 is like the most viewed like fight clip on the UFC's page ever. Like it's bonkers numbers. So we've got and I don't know where they're ranked in the Sherdog rankings, but like I'm gonna assume that they are between 5 and 10. Both of these guys.
Who, these guys?
Yeah,
I'll tell you right now. Yeah, give me just a moment. I'm actually looking at the page. In Sherdog's rankings, Justin Gaethje is number 6, Paddy Pimblett number 10.
Exactly. So we've got the 6th and the 10th ranked. I said they're between 5 and 10, and that's kind of where we've got like Charles Oliveira over them, even though Topuria knocked him dead. We got Max Holloway there, even though Topuria beat him in another division. I actually think stuff that happens in other divisions I think it's just like a doesn't count thing. New division, new thing. So you got this fight and you're just like, gosh, okay. I think the UFC's motive behind this one is to just put on a fight that they know will be action-packed for the main event and 2 guys that are big names. And quite frankly, I think for Max, I bet Max was probably approached about this, but probably didn't want to make that turnaround. And there was a leak from UFC Brazil. Max is probably already in a training camp for Charles Oliveira.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's like, I heard the same things you did. I think part of the reason behind this is Paddy Pimblett's best chance to get any kind of UFC belt.
100%.
He is about to fight for a title, never having beaten a top 15 fighter. His best win is over Bobby Green.
Yeah. And the way that the UFC, they did this shit real sneaky. Like one day he was like 12th in the division, and then like 2 weeks go by and like there's some fights that happen, like Mauricio Hoofy gets beat by Benoit Saint Denis, and then he moves up like 2 more spots, and I'm like, I'll watch this dude go from like 12 to 9 to 7 to now 5. And I think even Dan
not doing anything. Yeah, just
existing. Even Dan Hooker was like, they're getting this guy. They want this guy to fight for a title. And if any of these listeners, I know you probably remember when Khabib fought Al Iaquinta on short notice, Paul Felder was originally offered that fight, and the New York State Athletic Commission would not sanction the fight because they're like, these 2 guys are just too far in the rankings. So poor Al Iaquinta had to take that beating instead. And I think that's maybe why they do stuff like this.
Well, it's when they realized they had to, when they realized that the rankings could matter and impact their business directly rather than just be a discussion point for fans. Yeah. It changed a lot. And that's the kind of thing that could only have happened in New York.
True.
Like most places where MMA wasn't as new as it still was in New York in 2018, they would have allowed it or disallowed it. But in what world is Paul Felder less of a challenge for Khabib than Iaquinta was? Like, yeah,
Paul Felder might have been a more tough fight at that time.
No, I think he might have been. That's what I'm saying. Hell, I'm slightly bummed we didn't get that fight.
I know. And it's funny because and then like the exact opposite, like in the for Florida, or even worse, like the Mississippi Athletic Commission, where it's like Islam Makhachev is fighting BJ Penn tomorrow. Like just they'll commission me and you to fight one pro. Like they'll let anything fly, especially in Mississippi. I don't want to give like an immediate early prediction, but like, boy, oh boy, would I not be surprised if Paddy Pimblett goes out there and makes it happen.
I don't want to speak too soon, but I'm approaching my tape study for that fight with a very open mind. Because on the one hand, while I just criticized Pimblett's title shot, and for the record, it's one of the worst, least justifiable title shots on strict merit in the UFC in the last 10 or 15 years. But having said all that, Pimblett has really, really over-delivered based on what I thought he was going to do in the UFC. He's a better fighter than I thought he was, and he's a better fighter than he was 5 years ago. Like
he's also fucking huge now. He's like low key one of the biggest dudes in the division now. He's just big, and he's not like a fat piece of shit in between camp anymore. Like before, like when he first got into the UFC, he was like taking terrible care of himself, like getting more out of shape than you and I are, like just like real bad, taking real bad care of himself, and then like doing a fight camp, and then like just partying and eating like crazy. But now he seems to have his ducks in a row. I think maybe it's because he had a couple kids.
Turned 30. The weight cut gets harder and harder. Like he's grown the hell up.
And like he beat the fuck out of Michael Chandler too.
He sure did.
But at that time, we don't know what that means, and we might not see Michael Chandler fight again. The co-main event of this fight card is a fight that, even though we were probably just sold tickets saying that Zhang Weili and Valentina Shevchenko was like the best women's fight that you could make, like 4 months later, we're going to get the best women's fight that you can make. Amanda Nunes is returning to women's bantamweight. She is going to be taking on Kayla Harrison at women's bantamweight. I'm emphasizing on the weight class because I think it's stupid. I think it's a fine fight, but this fight to me just screams like they're about to pull the plug on this whole division.
It'll be really interesting. Obviously, I'm with you. I would like this fight itself a lot more if it were at 145 pounds. I just think we'd get better versions of both women, especially in a 5-round fight, especially with Nunes not having been active in a couple of years. But if they were to book this at 145, that says one thing about their plans for these divisions. Having booked it at 135, that says another thing. Depending on who wins, it implies different things for the future. That, again, is another thing that we could go off into and have a serious side discussion about.
I think it's a good fight. I think it's a good fight for the first Paramount card. Kayla Harrison is probably not fighting on this White House card, though, just because I don't think that she is making women's 135 like once in January and then again in June. Like,
Well,
I think
if she fights in June, it's probably not a 135. Yeah.
I think the cuts are that bad. I don't know if I feel like it was Kayla's management team, but maybe it was Amanda's management team. One of their management teams stated that they're going to be fighting twice, which means that there's an apparent rematch clause potentially tied into this, from what I heard. And that to me is just like, dude, if these girls get stuck into like a 3-fight, I don't know what's gonna like.
Yeah.
Kayla Harrison is not making bantamweight three more times in her life. That's not even gonna happen.
I see. I'm tempted to say that, but she got it dialed right in when she got to the UFC. She showed no serious issue making the weight. She seems to have kind of rebuilt her physique a little bit around this. Like, again, I would prefer to see her at 145, assuming they can find enough appealing challengers. But I'm done doubting Kayla Harrison. You know,
there's a reason why I picked her as my women's bantamweight this year, because I'm thinking that I've seen Amanda Nunes knock some chicks out, but I've also seen her like get thoroughly dominated on the ground. And like, I've never seen Kayla Harrison quit on herself in a fight. And as dominant and as crushing as Amanda Nunes has been, I've seen her like quit on herself in several fights. And it always happens when she's getting stuck grappling. And yeah, Juliana Pena jabbed her to bits before choking her out. But like, if Valentina Shevchenko's getting takedowns on you, like, and if there's any woman in this division that's ever had any grappling success against you, Kayla Harrison can capitalize on that times 5,000.
yes.
Actually, thinking she's going to chuck Nunes around and sub her.
That wouldn't surprise me. It also wouldn't surprise me if Kayla's getting the smelling salts in 3 minutes, because her striking, even now, is barely passable. And
this could look like that her last Pacheco fight.
Yeah, where Pacheco kind of survived early, then stuck, moved, busted her up pretty good. And Pacheco, despite looking, especially at 155, like this like terrifying, incredible Hulk of a woman, she doesn't hit anywhere near as hard as Amanda Nunes.
No, and she's not the accurate puncher.
No,
that Amanda can be.
And on top of that, like, obviously there is a wide gulf between Kayla Harrison and someone like Felicia Spencer, but one of the reasons that Spencer had an especially horrible style matchup in Amanda Nunes is that she needed to get the fight on the ground. Her best takedowns were from the clinch, not the shot. And Amanda Nunes is maybe the meanest phone booth fighter in MMA history. Like, it's her prime Vanderlei or Shogun from like 2005. Like, just people where if you both have your hands on each other, you're probably getting the worst of it. Like,
that's Cyborg found out about that the hard way. You let that girl get an overhook and she's gonna club you with something real freaking hard.
Yeah.
I was asked recently, like, what was the worst like UFC main event that I've ever watched, and I think it was actually like Nunes versus Felicia Spencer, like as like a main event on a pay-per-view. Like, that was bad. That doesn't get talked about enough as like one of the worst UFC main events. But like, if people listening to this, if you're ever in a discussion about worst pay-per-view main events, like Nunes versus Felicia Spencer, I remember exactly where I was watching it. And like, on the not as bad as Carla and Namajunas, but real bad. That card also got another really big fight announcement: Sean O'Malley versus Song Yadong, and we'll rip through this one. This is something that I'm sure you've heard about for a minute, because I've heard about this one for a while. Makes all the sense in the world. I think this is actually win-win for the UFC because the UFC is continuously trying to corner this Chinese market. If Song Yadong can figure out a way to beat Sean O'Malley, then him and Merab are the only dudes that, you know, have done it. And for Sean O'Malley, like, if Sean O'Malley gets a win, more than likely it's in spectacular fashion. And the UFC just wants Sean O'Malley to be winning fights.
Yes. O'Malley's a star. The UFC would love it if he was champ, or at least doing well enough to headline a couple cards a year. So I'm with you on that one. Win.
Another guy that's from your neck of the woods is heavyweight. We've got, thank God he's not fighter of the year that we're talking about him, but Waldo Contreras has taken on Derek Lewis.
Sure
Derek,
is.
You know what? This is actually what the UFC is supposed to do with heavyweights. Like, just fucking speed run them until they blow up. Like, every heavyweight should just get speed ran until they blow up. And then once they blow up, like, let them, you know, kind of see where they are. The problem with that is, like, go to Sherdog.com, type in Derek Lewis, go to his record and see how many young heavyweights they've tried to search through the rankings and put against Derek Lewis, and then let me know what happens to them. He just killed one of them.
Just killed one of them. He killed Taliesin Teixeira. He killed Chris Daukaus back. You know, he's still that guy.
Yeah, and he's kill or be killed. Like, this could look like the Tuivasa fight.
Yeah,
you know, I actually think Derek Lewis is probably going to knock him dead. You brought up smelling salts, and, like, keep them handy.
Yeah. Like, obviously I'm not previewing the fight now, but if Lewis loses, if he loses bad, I'd say it even looks more like Lewis versus Ciryl Gane, where a guy who has just better reach and footwork than him really, really frustrates him on the outside until he gets reckless and then just kills him. Like, because the thing about the Tuivasa fight was that he beat Derek Lewis at a Derek Lewis fight, just toe to toe. I'm going to slip your best shot and come back with something that you can't get out of the way of. I mean, that's what Derek Lewis has done to, like, literally 15 people in the UFC, and he had it done to him by Tuivasa. That's not Cortez Acosta's game. Cortez Acosta is going to be jabbing and leg kicking Lewis and frustrating the shit out of him until Lewis finally just says, screw this, comes forward and walks into something big. I don't know if I'm predicting that, but if he loses to old WCA, I think that's probably what happens.
What a story from this guy. Get him an eye patch. The whole thing with Ante Delia, like, he's doing the right thing though. Like, you know, corner the market, like, if putting the eye patch on Bisping is good shit.
Yeah.
And he got it on the right eye, you know?
There you go.
Another really good freaking fight on this card. Gene Silva versus Arnold Allen. Gene Silva's back, and Arnold Allen is finally back. It's weird because I heard Arnold Allen talking about going up to 155, but this fight got put together. I think it's a really, really big fight. No prediction yet because I don't know. But I'm glad to see Arnold Allen back. He's got a record of 20-3. Like, Arnold Allen is a very, very good fighter. He fought very well against, like, Max Holloway, and last time out against Giga. And I mean, Gene Silva is incredible. He looked great against Diego Lopez last time out until he got finished.
Yep.
But I think that's just a good ass fight.
It's a great fight. Like, the whole thing about Gene Silva is, because the finish was so spectacular and so shocking, it draws away from how good Silva had looked up until that point. And they're both great fighters. If you put Gene Silva and Diego Lopez in the cage with each other 10 times, I don't know if they go 6-4, 5-5, 4-6, but it only looks like that once. You know, like, I'm not calling it a fluke. I'm not saying Silva's a better fighter that just got caught, but just, yeah, like, the finish shouldn't take away from how good he looked or how good he is.
Yeah, he, like, rocked Diego Lopez and was, like, chasing a finish of his own, and then just gets fucking walked into the, like, that is.
Yeah. Wherever he was at that moment, Scott Smith got a little smile on his face. Yeah.
I'm a big time fisherman, and a large portion of fishing is a lot of luck involved. But when I take a 6-inch bait and I whip it up under these trees and I make a beautiful, perfect cast and I hook that nice big fish, like, I was lucky, but a lot of shit lined up in order for me, in order for me to pull that off. Same thing with Diego Lopez. I probably should never compare myself to him. Another fight that got announced on this card, I kind of poked fun at Dana's pronunciation of Rose Namajunas. He's been saying her name and selling us Rose Namajunas for like, bro, I know you're capable of it. It's the same thing as Bruce.
It is interesting. Like, she's been in your organization since like her 4th pro fight, since she was like 21 years old. It's been working for you for like almost half her life. Say her name right. Good Lord.
More than just work, like she's not just a worker bee either. Like, this is like
she's a former
time world champion. Like,
yeah,
just give her something, and she's fighting Alexa Grasso, former champ as well.
Yeah, like, I'm not saying Rose Namajunas is your strawweight goat, but whoever you think a strawweight goat is, she beat him twice.
Both of them.
Like,
she's
anyway.
Probably the best. Like, she's very, very good. So she's up a division. She's doing things at 125. She's fighting Alexa Grasso, which kind of positions her for a title fight against her dear friend Valentina. I know they're close. I know they're friends, but I'm pretty sure both of them are willing to put friendship aside.
I don't think Valentina has friends. Like, she is such a cold human being. Like,
okay. So the other day I was like scrolling through Twitter, and I find this Peruvian like Dancing with the Stars clip. And there's this young, attractive blonde girl dancing like on a pole, like shaking that thing. And I was like, who is this? It's Valentina Shevchenko doing full splits and everything on some like Peruvian Dancing with the Stars when she was like in her like mid to late 20s. And I'm just like,
that's awesome.
I'm like,
good.
She's a spy.
She's totally a spy.
She's totally a spy. She's a fucking spy.
Like, if you're watching this, when I say she's a cold human being, I'm not saying she's an actual sociopath. She just has that very 80s spy movie, Cold War, Russian ice queen flat affect, even though she's not Russian. Yeah. But yeah, like,
go to her Instagram page. She is literally like a woman, like the attractive woman spy from any movie. Yeah, she should be Black Widow. She's like the real life Black Widow.
Like, if her job is to punch Rose Namajunas so she can get her paycheck, probably going to do it. If her job is to choke Rose Namajunas with a piano wire to get her paycheck, she's probably going to do it. That's Val. I'm terrified of her.
More than likely, what she's probably going to do is just lay on her and hold her in mounted crucifix for a little while. But
yeah.
And Grasso, this gives her a chance to, come back in and do something. But I think the UFC is kind of flat on Grasso now. Another fight that got made where it's like, I understand the UFC would love this guy to fight for a belt again, and they would love to have this guy as their champ in this division. But Umar Nurmagomedov is taking on Davison Figueiredo. That's also a great fight. That's also going to be on that UFC 324 card. I think the way this will be sold to us is this is a title eliminator. If Figueiredo wins, he'll be fighting Merab. I love Davison Figueiredo. He ain't beating Umar Nurmagomedov.
Yeah.
Like, this is them getting Umar a big win over a big name.
Yeah. No, I completely agree.
This is the Paddy Pimblett fight. Like, same approach. And I would say Justin Gaethje today is more dangerous than Davison Figueiredo today.
In this particular matchup, I would say so. Yeah.
I see what you're doing, UFC, and I'm not saying you're wrong. It makes sense. What I do believe is wrong, though, is the next UFC card, UFC 325. This will be in Sydney, Australia. We have Alexander Volkanovski taking on Diego Lopez again. This is like Usman fighting Jorge Masvidal the second time. You know?
I don't even think it's as compelling as that. Like the first, because after the first Usman versus Masvidal fight, like when they booked a second time, I'm like,
he did just beat the shit out of Nate Diaz, and he was the BMF champ at that point.
Yeah, but me looking at it, I was like, Usman's going to beat him even worse.
Yeah. But at least he was like, you know, kind of like he was street Jesus at that time. You know, he didn't beat me up, but like Jorge Masvidal got knocked dead in that fight. Only time he has ever been knocked out. But this is just kind of very similar where it's like it basically like what I'm hearing from Lerone Murphy and Evloev is Lerone Murphy's like, even Volk's team was like, we want to fight Lerone Murphy. And Volk's team was just like, no, they heard from the UFC, like, no, Diego Lopez is a bigger name. We want you to fight Diego Lopez.
Okay.
Clearly there's something behind this, but I think it's, you know, one of the more undeserving title fights. And
it's, yeah, just, it's not even a year removed from the first fight. There's nothing controversial about the first fight. There's nothing that leads me to believe that the outcome would be radically different one way or the other. Like I said, when you were talking about Usman versus Masvidal, the only thing that changed was I'm like, now Usman's pissed. It's just gonna, instead of a dull domination, it's gonna be a nasty domination. Here, like, Lopez might do better. Volkanovski might beat him a little worse, but yeah, there's nothing controversial about the first fight. It's certainly, it's not the worst in terms of merit, but it's certainly the most pointless I can think of in a while. This feels pointless.
It does feel pretty pointless. And I think Volk will probably hang him up if things work out his way.
Well, if he wins and hangs him up, then you've really screwed yourself, because Diego Lopez he's now a really hard sell to fight for your newly vacant title.
It will literally need to look like the Dominic Reyes John Jones fight. That's the only way they could sell us that shit again.
Mm-hmm.
Where like this guy beat Volk, obviously. Volk, you know, won a robbery. He ran off in the sunset with his belt. He retired. So we're gonna put the true number one contender against, you know, so and so. And I don't think that's the case. Volk, you know, Volk has never been a guy with the strongest chin, and I would not be surprised if Lopez. I wouldn't be surprised if any contender at 45 knocked him dead at this point. Yeah. Like, if you told me Volk was moving up to 155 and he was fighting Max Holloway a fourth time, I'd pick Max Holloway at 155 to probably knock him out. You know, if they fought again. So I'm not, you know, I'm not super high. I actually, this is the first time I've been able to say this in quite some time, but I don't think Volk is currently the best 145er on the planet. Even if you include Ilia Topuria, he might not even be one of the best three right now. Like,
I can see that.
Movsar Evloev exists, and Ilia Topuria exists. And I don't know if, you know, I don't know if Volk is just operating the same way he was before. Those are all the announcements. Really, really, really cool fights. Moving on to the final segment of the show, and with the new, we're going to talk about UFC 323 for a full breakdown of the card. Listen to this guy's show. Where's he at? Right here. There's a whole entire breakdown. Very, very good breakdown. Very, very thorough. Him and Keith do a great job. We're going to talk about the main event and the co-main event. We're going to start off with your guy. I think it's like everyone's guy at this point. Joshua Van, he's taking a shot. He's swinging for the frickin' bleachers. He's taking on Alexandre Pantoja. This is a huge mountain for this young kid to climb. But I think he's capable. Odds on this fight, Pantoja, the Brazilian, he's minus 265, minus 240 in some places. Josh Van is about plus 200 everywhere you look. This is a real interesting fight. This kid, Josh Van, I know you've got quite a history with him. was gonna say he grew up kind of probably right before your eyes his whole entire MMA career.
The time he joined the UFC, I'd seen all but one of his pro fights live, I believe. His entire career basically has taken place in my town. Yeah.
And you know, really good improvements from him. Like he got into the UFC back in 2023 and he won a split decision versus best haircut in the game, Saga Zumagulov. That dude's got, it's worse than Paddy's haircut. But like he's improved like crazy. And for me, the loss against Charles Johnson, like that doesn't mean too much to me. Like yeah, it's important when you're doing your tape study to look at that, but like he's made so many improvements just by leaps and bounds since then. I'm kind of like, yeah. And then Pants, man, like for his age, he's 35 at men's 125. He's going to be 36 next year in the first quarter of 2026. He turns 36 in April. His last time out, he ran through Kai Kara-France so badly that Kai Kara-France has quit MMA. He's literally taking a hiatus from the sport. Ran through Kai Asakura. This was a guy that was going to flying knee his head off. You know, and his most recent but potentially most telling fight was like the Steve Erceg fight.
Yeah.
But we're really, with both of these guys, like this is probably the best that they're both fighting. And especially for Van, but like even for Pantoja, probably.
It's really impressive. I was talking on my preview about this. In the wake of the Demetrius Johnson era at men's flyweight, we realized what stability he had lent to what was normally going to be a wild division. Like you think about the guys that have been kind of on the top of this division for the last 5 or 6 years. Pantoja, Moreno, Alex Perez, Brandon Royval, they're all psychotically aggressive fighters. I always thought this would be a division where after Demetrius Johnson, you were never going to see a champ string together a ton of title defenses. You're never going to see someone go on like an 8, 10, 12 fight win streak just because the guys at the top are so talented. But again, they're all so aggressive and have the occasional defensive lapses because of that. For Pantoja to be fighting as well as he has, to be on an 8 fight win streak, to be turning back such talented challengers in generally such impressive fashion, it's incredible. He doesn't get enough credit for where he is in the pound for pound hierarchy right now. Like he might be the number 3 guy after Islam and Ilya, whatever order you want to put them in. Like, as much of a Merab booster as I am, you look at their respective resumes, he might be the number 3 guy.
I would say rightfully, this is my opinion. So rightfully is, you know, my opinion is I believe that the way that they should be stacked right now is current pound for pound rankings. This does not include John Jones, Islam, Ilia Topuria, Merab Dvalishvili, Alexandre Pantoja.
Okay.
And 3 and 4 can be interchanged at, depends on what happens this weekend. You know, the either one of those guys, especially if one of them loses, that, you know, then things will be all completely different. But if both of these guys win, depending on their performances, 3 and 4 can be interchangeable, in my opinion. Pantoja, like this dude's been around, like even during like the Davison Figueiredo like 4-peat with like he was still cutting his teeth and like fucking dudes up, you know. He lost that weird fight to Askar Askarov, but like he's fought. When you compare him to the guy he's taken on this weekend in Joshua Van, like he's fought like probably the 2 most dangerous strikers in flyweight history outside of like John Dodson. But that's really up at 135. But like he's taken on Davison Figueiredo, and Davison Figueiredo in 2019 was not only like the scariest puncher in the division ever, but like the scariest puncher in that division ever. Like I would say that like 2019 Davison Figueiredo, 2020, like when he was doing shit to Joseph Benavidez, like that dude was freaking scary. And he took on Manel Kape. Like Manel Kape,
sure did.
Very scary striker. With Joshua Van, like this is definitely the most high profile opponent and definitely the best opponent he's faced by far. Pantoja is such a good striker. It's something that's like super slept on. He is just like a dog on a bone. He's so tenacious. He's able to pace himself through the fight too. He's very front-footed and he's durable as like the dude can take a hell of a shot. We've never really seen him buzzed like on the feet bad before.
Nope.
And he's fought the dudes. Joshua Van, like his combination boxing is so good. His foot placement is so good. He is one of the only guys in the division where like even matched up against like prime Davison Figueiredo or even a guys like Manel Kape, like if you get stuck in these like prolonged exchanges with him, it's like getting stuck in a prolonged exchange with Dustin Poirier. Where like, oh, now you're stuck where the third person throwing in this combination is Dustin Poirier, where he threw first, you threw second. Now he's throwing the third time, and now you're fucked. Like, that is a very Joshua Van thing. Very good shot selection with his boxing. He goes to the body very, very well. If you sit in front of him with a high guard, he will cut an angle and rip shots around your high guard. And he's really got his cardio in check. Like, look at his 5th round against Brandon Royval. In this fight, it's going to go one of two ways, again, in my opinion. Either I believe Pantoja is going to take the same approach he took against Kai Asakura and against Kai Kara France and against most of the people he fights, where I think he's going to walk him down and try to throw bombs, force him to make bad mistakes against the cage and look for like takedowns, or most importantly, look for any sort of like standing back take or a back take he can get in a scramble, like put so much just brute force and pressure on you that you make a mistake and he takes your back. I think that's what his plan is going to be here. And I guarantee in the first or second round, we're going to see like 3 minutes of control from the back. Will Josh Van tap? I don't think Josh Van will tap in this fight. I think if he does get caught in a submission, he just gets choked to sleep. That's just the type of dude he seems to be. You know, he's Burmese, dude. Like that's like, go look at the history of fighters from Burma. You know, or Myanmar. I want to pick Joshua Van in this fight because I think his combination boxing, I think his willingness to go to the body is something like a dedicated body puncher with volume and power. Now, the difference between Davison Figueiredo and Manel Kape and a guy like Josh Van is like they're both trying to strike you with one bolt of lightning. Joshua Van is trying to hit you 60 times with a ball peen hammer.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think Pantoja's really fought anyone like that. The only person that he's fought that's similar to that has like a dedicated, crafty boxing game is Brandon Moreno. And I don't think Brandon is as crafty or as... I don't think he has the same good footwork as Josh Van. I think Josh Van knows how to stay safe in the pocket and have those prolonged exchanges. And that's something that Pantoja like invites in his fights. And it's been a blessing for him, but against a dude like Van, like that shit could be a curse real quick. I'm going to pick Joshua Van to win this fight. I'm going out on a limb, and I kind of almost want to just see it happen. Number one, because if Pantoja beats Josh Van, I'm such a Pantoja guy that like if he beats Josh Van, there's probably nothing left for him in this division, and he's going to be stuck fighting Merab at some point in 2026. And like, if you're a fan of any fighter, you don't want them to fight Merab.
No.
Like, and I'm pretty sure that.
And he actually said this week that if it came to moving up to 135, he'd move up to fight O'Malley, probably not Merab. He gets it.
Yeah, I'll freaking like, yeah, anyone that's signing up to do that is, you know, yeah. So I'm going with Josh Van. I just think he's going to probably lose one of the first 2 rounds bad, where it, like, you know, we're looking at potential 10-8, where it's just like 5, you know, 3.5, 4 minutes of like back control with the body triangle, where he's just like fighting off chokes, getting hit with shots. This fight could also just end in that first round via rear naked choke. I would say there's like a 60% chance that Pantoja wins this fight via submission in the first 10 minutes. There's a very good chance. But Pantoja is getting older. He is willing to brawl with people. So just give me Van to just like be the better boxer, and Pantoja being willing to play that game with him for too long, where it's like, oh crap, I lost 3 rounds of this fight just because I got hit harder. Also, like, Pantoja can crack, man, and we've seen Van get knocked dead. Like, this fight can have so many outcomes. Don't be surprised if you see like what happened in the Charles Johnson fight happen in the 4th round. Like, if Pantoja just like takes that 3rd round off, he takes a break, and then he just like comes out like a fucking bat out of hell and punches his head off. Ben, who do you think's going to win this fight?
I will get the spoilers out of the way. Of course, if you've watched my preview with Keith, then you already know who I'm leaning towards. It is unanimous. I'm going with the pretty substantial underdog, Josh Van, in this one as well, even though I recognize what an uphill battle this is. What a challenge it's going to be to go from fighting a rock solid top 5 contender to fighting a guy that we think might be underrated as no worse than the 4th best pound for pound fighter on the planet from one fight to the next. But having said that, you already outlined a lot of the reasons that I see the upset happening here. Of course, Pantoja has fought great boxers at flyweight. He's fought everybody at flyweight. He's, except for Demetrius Johnson, he's fought basically all the rest of the top 6 or 7 flyweights in UFC history. He's fought good boxers. He's fought huge hitting knockout artists, but there is a mix of traits that Van brings that he's not really seen before. And you said it yourself. Manel Kape, honestly, like John Dodson, with maybe a little bit more of a diverse arsenal, if you're fighting Manel Kape for 5 rounds, there are about 15 techniques that you need to make sure that you are not there for. Yeah. There's going to be a flying knee. There's going to be a spinning something. There are going to be a couple of Takanori Gomi style, just enormous looping overhands. If you stay out of the way of those, you're probably going to win a decision against Manel Kape. It was the same with John Dodson, except instead of 15 techniques, there are probably 8 in 5 rounds you have to be out of the way of. With Van, it is somebody that throws long combinations in the pocket, like a Dustin Poirier or a Max Holloway, but it's like a dude doing it with rolls of nickels in his gloves, like without overswinging. Go ahead.
It's like the punching power of like when prime Tony Ferguson, like you see like someone's face after the fight and you're like, that dude looks beat up. Like why? Like he got like, Van is not a one punch knockout person, but like you fight that dude, like you're gonna be lumped up bad.
You are, and you pointed out he goes to the body like nobody else. And yes, Pantoja has an incredible chin, but nobody has an incredible liver.
Or an incredible floating rib.
Yeah, exactly. If you get one of your floating ribs like poked into your diaphragm, or you get a bruise to your liver, you could have Mark Hunt's chin. In fact, forever, who's the only guy that really stopped Mark Hunt? Was people that kicked him right up the middle in the gut. He's an underdog for a reason, but Pantoja is getting older.
Yep.
He's fighting someone that's 12 years younger than him, is improving measurably from one fight to the next, and has a mixture of footwork, especially lateral movement, combination punching, body work, and natural power in all of his shots that he's never faced before. So for all that Van is, stepping up, taking a huge step up in competition, Pantoja is going to see some things he's never had to deal with before either. I am leaning towards Van in an upset here by decision, kind of like you are, and kind of like you're saying. He's probably going to have at least one round where he is in serious trouble, probably early, probably on the ground. But it wouldn't shock me that much if Pantoja had him in trouble on the feet either. He's an explosive hitter. He's very underrated striker and hits super hard. And we've seen that Van can be hurt. But yeah, give me Van by decision. And I'd love to continue being wrong about this, because as obvious a surefire prospect as he was coming up in Texas, when he got signed to the UFC, I thought it might be a little too early. Thought, man, I would love it if he'd gotten another 4 or 5 wins here in Texas, popped up on the Contender Series, and showed up in the UFC at like 11-0 or 12-0, just, with a little more experience under his belt. But he has managed to grow up and develop his game under the brightest lights. He's only taken one loss along the way, and it wasn't a blowout. He got caught, he got leveled in a fight in which he was doing really well, and we've not seen any reason to believe that he has some like Luke Rockhold off switch in his chin, like he's been fine ever since. So,
and another thing too that I forgot to mention is like, go through Pantoja's record, and like, I'm looking at it and I'm like, has he ever fought someone that will like full on meet his tenacity? Like Pantoja is like, when I think of him, I just think of like a Tasmanian devil, or like just a crazy ass stray cat, like
he's fought guys that have that mentality, but generally speaking, they haven't been able to maintain it. Like Royval and Moreno and Perez all wanted that kind of fight with him, and they didn't like what they ordered once the meal arrived at their table.
Like I could totally see like Pantoja as the champion is like usually the dude that's like pressing forward and like trying to run his opponent over. But like, don't be surprised if Josh Van, like I think we're probably done seeing slow start Van, which could end in his demise, or, if he goes out there and he throws 50% of his punches to the body, like if he goes out there and does like real boxing shit and just goes and dedicates 40 to 50% of his punches to the body, like he could do some work. And the Steve Erceg fight, like Steve Erceg had a lot of success once the fight got going and we were past the like Pantoja bat out of hell shit, and like we were stuck into a fight 3rd, 4th, 5th round. Like Steve Erceg was not the UFC champion due to his own blunder. Like he was on his way to like outboxing and out voluming and just being like the craftier puncher. If he gets stuck in that same situation with Van,
he's getting knocked out.
Yeah, nobody wants to be stuck in that situation in this division with Josh Van. So yeah, Josh Van, man, very, very interesting. Moving on to the main event, we have a rematch. We kind of dunked on rematches a little bit ago. And this is probably like another one of those rematches where it's like, this is a fight that we don't really need to see. We have Merab Dvalishvili taking on Petr for the second time. Odds on this fight, Merab's a -500 favorite. Petr is coming back at +350. If this is one of those fights where like I actually think Petr is like one of the most skillful dudes to like just ever be an MMA fighter.
Yes.
Like technically he's just very good at a lot of things.
Yeah, he's a glimpse of what we might have gotten if someone like Vasyl Lomachenko had decided to go into MMA instead of boxing when he was like a 13-year-old.
quite literally, like the pivoting game, like the pivoting, the L stepping, like all of his abilities and like composure, like
Yeah.
very
An underrated, well-roundedness, better wrestler, much better kicker than he gets credit for.
and
Just
like
because
if
it's in his nature to be good at everything. Yeah.
quite literally. I mean, when you when he's announced like he's from Siberia,
Yep.
take a moment to pause this if you don't know where fucking Siberia is, and just chuck in Google Maps Siberia. Like,
Yeah.
where Petr is from is like one township over from the saddest town on the planet. There are articles written about the neighboring town as like the saddest town on the planet.
He's from the place the Soviets literally sent their political prisoners to die.
Yeah, and they escaped and had children, and that's Petr. Yeah, like the dude is from Siberia. Like, and if you like, he's a we called Shevchenko cold. He is also a spy. Like,
he definitely a spy.
He himself, Petr, and I hate to talk about him, in this way because, like, just to give my pick away, like, I don't think he has much of a chance in this fight. Like, this is a real tough match for him. Again, after you've looked up Siberia, pause this. Don't even watch the whole Petr and Merab Dvalishvili first fight. Fast forward to the very end. After Merab has announced the winner, there's a moment where they're in the cage and Merab Dvalishvili goes to shake Petr's hand. Merab shot so many takedowns that when the fight's over, the fight's been over for minutes, scorecards are being read, Merab goes to shake Petr's hand. Petr is immediately getting his hips back and down blocking. Fight's been over for like 5 minutes. And like he's still like, flinchy when Merab is like Merab didn't just like beat up Petr in their first fight. Like he
gave him PTSD.
Literally. And I've never seen this is the dude that like illegally kneed off Aljamain Sterling's head and like was like, haha.
Yep.
And I think Petr's game, unfortunately for him, is just so set up for someone like Merab to thrive on because he needs to get his reads and he will stand in front of his opponents. He will plant, he will keep a high guard, and he will try to counter back. But Merab is like consistently shooting under that high guard. I think the problem for Petr in this fight is like, number one, in their first fight, Merab just kicked his legs to absolute bits. Like really effed him up with leg kicks. And he shot 49 takedowns. Like,
I threw out this stat and kind of amused Keith on our preview. I'll throw it at you right now. Derek Lewis has over 30 fights in the UFC. He's the UFC's all-time leader in knockouts. He's been in 5-round fights for a decade now. He has only thrown more than 49 strikes in a fight twice. And Merab shot that many takedowns.
Like, just what? Don't be surprised if he gets 50. The problem for Jan is like, Jan is an incredible fighter and like skill for skill, like probably one of just like the better bantamweights ever. Like if you had to name the top 10 best, like Petr's probably on that list. But like if he's gotten better, I haven't really noticed. But like Merab's better. Merab is like hurting people on the feet now. He is subbing them. Like people are forgetting in the second fight with O'Malley, like there was moments where like O'Malley was like trying to skirt the outside of the cage and Merab is throwing where he's going to be.
Yep.
Like looping big hooks and making O'Malley like run into big hooks, getting him like staggered up against the cage. And like he almost knocked out Sandhagen in there. By the way, dude, anybody that has that sequence against a fighter like Sandhagen, is going to be just gassed out and dead. Like Merab goes on to win the next round after that. Like he wins the rest of that round and then goes on to win the next one. Like just in this fight, like X's and O's. I mean, a disaster is like the best way to describe the first fight that they had for Petryan. And like, I think this is even worse for him. His problem is Merab is bigger than him. Merab is stronger than him. I actually think Merab is probably the harder puncher. He's definitely not the more crafty puncher. No. Petryan is an incredibly crafty boxer. He will make his reads. He loves to counter punch. He has good outside footwork. He always wins the outside foot position. But like, I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan, and like Merab is like Grond. Just the battering ram of all battering rams. Like he is just like, his plan in this fight should be to just throw punches at Petryan, force him to put up his high guard that he always does, and shoot takedowns. And if he tries to do something different, like in the fight that like Michael Morales, like that stance with his hands down, like Merab's boxing has gotten so much better. Like, don't be surprised if he buzzes Petryan like several times while he just backs him straight up to the cage. I would not be surprised if Merab gets like hurts him on the feet, takes him down, and like gets a ground and pound finish in like the 4th or 5th round. Looks like Petryan might have gotten better, but like I've seen Merab like become a better puncher, really lean on his power. If his cardio hasn't gotten better, it definitely is still the freaking same. And if not, it's better, because now he's like adding finishing sequences into these situations and still not getting tired. Like his performances last time out against Corey Sandhagen was absolutely incredible. Like that was Corey Sandhagen's best performance of his whole entire career in a loss. And he beat the fuck out of him.
Yes.
I think Petryan is going to be stuck in this real terrible situation where he just can't keep this dude off of him. He's not going to be able to hit Merab with anything punishing enough. He's going to be stuck defending against big shots coming up top. And then when he's defending those, he's just going to be stuck in it's just like, it's like Merab throws him in a dryer, starts it for 30 seconds, and then lets him get back out again. And then just like continuously the rinse and repeat takedowns, like causing him to defend, get back up, defend, get back up. Like it's too much at once. Give me Merab. I think he's actually going to finish him with ground and pound in the 4th round. This could look like the Marlon Marias fight, where like besides Merab getting hurt real bad, where like he just ends up hurting him with something, taking him down, and just like finishing with ground and pound. Ben, tell me what you think.
I'm with you here. I'm glad that Jan made his way back here, because he really is one of the greatest bantamweights of all time, one of the greatest of his era, certainly. I like the way you put it. Like, he is one of the most skilled fighters in the history of the division, in a way that his raw list of accomplishments may not really do justice to when it's all said and done. Like he may end up being the Alexander Gustafsson of his generation of bantamweight, where the strict tale of wins and losses and interim titles or title challenges doesn't tell a story of just how more skilled he was than even most of the other elite fighters in this division. Like, he may go down as that kind of fighter. Having said that, we learned quickly and brutally that this is a bad style matchup for him in the first fight. And I'm with you. I'm glad that Jan's losing streak didn't mean he was shop worn, and he is still at least as good as the fighter that was neck and neck with Aljamain Sterling a couple years ago. He still is that fighter, but Merab has improved since then. It shouldn't be happening to a guy that runs on pace and cardio and is turning 35 in January. He shouldn't be improving. One of my favorite things in MMA, in any combat sport. Like if you watch my previews, you know that Keith and I, our guys are the kind of blue collar, not that athletic overachiever types. I love that type of fighter. Another type of fighter I really love and is relatively rare is a fighter that keeps improving even after they're already on top. Like even after they're already the best in the world, they are just continuing to add tools. Like that's outside of being a fight fan, I just find that personally inspiring. Like
there's no reason for him to be better. He never had. The thing is with Merab too is one thing about him versus a lot of other champs, you know, like he did not have to hone any of these finishing skills. Like he didn't have to get better for him to probably still be as equally as successful. Maybe he took a couple more lumps, but like he probably wasn't still losing a lot of these fights if he was just doing what he did when he was, you know, surging up the rankings and getting his first title fight. But like the dude that fought Sean O'Malley and got hurt to the body in the 5th round, like, yeah, I think that dude is just like gone now. Even like
I agree. It was always going to be kind of a threading of the needle to beat Prime Merab, and just the needle's getting smaller and smaller. I asked this on the preview, and I said, at risk of sounding like I'm dismissing Petr Yan's chances on Saturday, I've got to ask this question. And for what it's worth, this question includes Petr Yan on Saturday, but until Merab gets old, like just aged and worn and is not able to do what he does anymore, what is it going to look like if he loses in this phase of his career? And it's basically going to be one of two things happening. It's going to either be somebody clocking him with a massive shot and then following up and managing to swarm and finish him in a way that we've not seen, because he's pretty easy to hurt, but he has incredible recoverability.
Yep.
You know, like we've seen him get rung up in a lot of these fights on this 14 fight win streak, but he's still getting his hand raised at the end. So you'd have to do that, which is something that we've literally not seen at all in his UFC run, or somebody would have to do for real what Ricky Simon maybe did, where just somebody snares him in a real quick, tight guillotine and just catches him. So if your routes to victory over a fighter in prime Merab Dvalishvili either involve you doing something we've never seen anyone do before, or involve him making a huge mistake, of course everyone's going to be a massive underdog. Like Petr Yan is great. He's a great fighter.
He's incredible.
As good a boxer as he is, he's not shown to be the kind of guy that's going to flatline Merab with one shot.
And let me ask you a question. Okay, so like the 3 dudes that have hurt Merab, like with striking that I can remember, let's think about what happened to them. Okay, we'll start with Marlon Moraes. Marlon Moraes clipped him, hurt him real bad, and had him, you know, this is a boxing term, on Queer Street, and had him like reeling back, like shuffling against the cage, like he was in a bad way,
stumbling all over the place. Yeah.
What happened to Marlon Moraes within 5 minutes of that? He's getting his head elbowed off.
Yes.
Henry Cejudo hurt him with a really nice check hook. Henry Cejudo's a very good fighter, and at that time, Henry Cejudo was like at the tail end of his prime. What happened to that dude? He got picked up and carried across the cage and embarrassed. Like within 30 seconds, he ended up getting hurt himself and ran across the cage like a firefighting dummy.
Yes.
And then the last person that hurt him was Sean O'Malley in the 5th round of their bout. Okay, well, in the rematch, like every person that's had success against him, he is not only like, okay, maybe he left the door cracked and he closed it. No. Like he left the door cracked open. You guys came in, he kicked you the F out and slammed the door behind you. Like there's, you know,
yeah.
It's like having success against Merab, like you said, unless you kill him, it almost like, oh, you had some success now.
Yeah.
Like now I'm not smiling in between rounds anymore.
Like, and that's that. And there may be something to that, but yeah, certainly Yan could do that to him, or Merab could shoot one of his 56 takedown attempts, you know, straight into a guillotine or something, and wonder of wonders, it actually works this time. Could Yan do that? Of course. Is it likely? No. And that's why Merab is minus 500. And
sorry, the only dude, in my opinion, that would have ever had the chance to like one shot him, let's say, would be someone like a Sean O'Malley, and then the other person that I think probably the best chance to beat Merab is to catch him in like a submission in bantamweight ever was his best friend and training partner, and those dudes would have never fought.
Yeah, and you have to think he'd be pretty well inoculated against that kind of thing if 4 days a week you're having to wrestle with Aljamain Sterling, who on top of being a great fighter is specifically a fantastic grappler, who is a funk style wrestler who seamlessly blends his wrestling and BJJ together. Like if Merab was allergic to guillotines, like he'd be dead on the floor at Serra-Longo.
Which I'm sure he has been probably choked to sleep by Aljo several times, but also too, and I'm not going, I'm just operating off of a hunch. Pretty sure Merab got the better of their training sessions quite often.
You can read between the lines. I think you're probably right. And I think it may even be a thing where Aljamain schooled him early on, but Merab passed him up at some point.
Like the student becoming the master, and like, oh yeah, this guy's real freaking good. There's a reason why Aljo moved out of the way. Like he was in the fast lane, but like he got into the middle lane, and and I think the thing between them is great. They've been real supportive toward each other, and I think, okay, you and your best friend getting world titles and like back to back in the same division, like that's cool. Incredible stuff. Yeah, dude. Before we end the show, who is the best bantamweight ever?
All right, are you asking best or greatest?
Both.
I think the best bantamweight of all time is Merab Dvalishvili right now. I take the version of Merab that we saw in his first 3 fights this year, and assuming he's going to be that good on Saturday, the 2025 version of Merab Dvalishvili beats anybody that ever fought at 135. So he's the best of all time. Whether he's the greatest of all time, that's more of, okay, how good was he for how long? Whom did he beat and how? It might still be Merab, but I
said both because like I'm ready to call them both.
And he might be. I'd have to take a look. I've been kind of a Dominic Cruz guy for a long time, but
what this guy's doing right now, man.
Yeah. He's doing incredible stuff right now. If I sat down and thought about it for half an hour, I might come back with Merab as the answer to both.
The way I feel about Merab right now is the way I felt about like the last 5 fights of Khabib's career.
Yes.
Where it was like,
well,
we know what's about to happen here.
He's the perfect illustration of the difference between best and greatest, because the last few years of Merab's or of Khabib's fight career, it's probably the most dominant fighter we've ever seen.
Yeah.
But because he wasn't super exciting to watch early on, because he was injured a lot and just had trouble getting into the cage 3 times a year, he didn't graduate to fighting top 10 fighters until like his last 7 or 8 fights. Like when you stack up his actual resume against the other kind of guys in the lightweight conversation, that's where you start to realize, oh, right. Up until the last 8 fights of his career, he was still just kind of fighting mid-card dudes. Yeah.
Yeah. But like when we saw like the announcement of like Khabib versus Dustin Poirier, I'm a huge Dustin Poirier fan, like one of my favorite fighters ever. And I was just like, well, we kind of knew in the Conor fight, like we know what's going to happen there. The Gaethje fight, well, we know what's going to happen there. And that's how I'm starting to feel about Merab, where I'm like, unless I see something real crazy, I'm just picking Merab in every single fight he's in, even if he does this for 4 more years.
Yeah. And there may be some point where even though he's still winning, we start to see the cracks show, maybe. But as of right now, he may be fighting literally the best he ever has.
Yeah. And like, final thing is, everyone thinks the second best person in this division is Umar Nurmagomedov. And like, I just watched Umar fight Mario Bautista. I'm not seeing Umar get better at fighting.
No.
I'm watching Merab get better.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, and that's to number 2.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and his last name is Nurmagomedov.
Well, you know what? Let's have a talk about it. Keith actually can't make it to the recap this weekend. You want to join me on the recap? I'm inviting you right now in front of all the viewers.
In front of all the viewers. Yes.
All right, cool. Okay. I mean, we'll figure it out. Like, you know, if you have some conflict, you know, we'll see what we need to do. But yeah, plan on it.
I said yes before talking to the boss. We both have someone we have to report to. At home too. It's the scary boss. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Ben, thanks for joining me, man. It was great to catch up with you. It's been a little while. I know we did a post-fight show recently, but that was like late as hell at night. This is great, and I'm assuming you're going to be back on for the 100th episode. Stay tuned for that. I'm just going to do the whole thing of like, where can people find your work? Right here.
Sherdog.com. I'm senior editor at Sherdog.com. I'm back to writing some articles, which is nice, but I do previews and recaps for every UFC card.
MMA is very important. I know this is your thing, but like, forget all that. Where can people listen to your music?
My current band is called Bayou Saints. You can find us on all your streaming platforms. We're on, you know, Spotify, Apple Music. If you really like it and you're a vinyl nerd, you know, get at me and I will sell you a vinyl LP, which sounds absolutely dynamite.
Sweet. Bayou Saints. Go listen to them. Great music. Yes. Thank you for tuning in.